1927. Before the Lindy Hop, there was a dance that they called breakaway. And a fellow named Shorty Snowden, or a couple fellows, I should say. Shorty Snowden, Leroy Jones, and Twist Mouth George. These were instrumental. These fellows were instrumental in changing from the Lindy. Wait till I go back home and come back. And changing from the breakaway, from the dance of breakaway to the Lindy Hop. As a matter of fact, Shorty Snowden was dancing in a marathon contest. In those days, back in the 20s, they used to run these type of contests where you would get out on, they would have maybe like 500 dancers on a dance floor at one time. And they would be dancing to music. Usually like in the daytime, they would have maybe recorded music that the dancers would dance to because there wasn't too many people in the audience. And these dancers, they would have to dance. Oh, they didn't have to dance. They would dance as long as they possibly could. That's why it was called a marathon dance. The one that lasted the longest was the one that won the contest. So Shorty Snowden was in this contest, and like during the evening when the crowds would come into the ballroom, Shorty would go into his breakaway dance, you know, to excite the people so they would be applauding for him and make it a little bit more interesting. And this was in 1927, and Charles Lindbergh had just flew the Atlantic Ocean solo from New York to Paris. And the headlines in the paper said, Lindy Hop, the Atlantic. So when Shorty Snowden was dancing, doing this dance called a breakaway, someone asked him, say, what are you doing? So instead of saying, well, I'm doing the breakaway, he said, well, I'm doing the Lindy Hop, which he had to remember from the paper because it was the headlines and everybody was talking about Lindy Hop's Atlantic. So he said, I'm doing the Lindy Hop. So that's how the Lindy Hop got its name from this fellow called Shorty Snowden. At the time, they were not doing what we call a twist, like, you know, the girl twists in and out, one of those things like that. They were just doing back step, back step. And Twist Mouth George, he was called Twist Mouth George because his mouth was twisted to the side. His name was George. So they called him Twist Mouth George. He came up to the Savoy one evening with his partner, Edith Matthews, and they were dancing, and he came over to Whitey and some of the rest of the Lindy Hoppers, and he said, watch this. It's a step that he and his partner had just made up. And he swung his partner out, and she started twisting in like this. So that was when the twist came into Lindy Hop. So from there, from the breakaway, which was the straightaway dance, with the girl not doing the twist, to this, which we do now. So, I mean, the twist must have been pretty good, or the girls like doing it, or the fellas like seeing the girls do it, because it's still going on. Everybody's trying to twist. So, as I said, the twist is very unique, and I mean, I love seeing it. I love seeing the girls do it anyway. I was about 13 when I started dancing. I used to go to parties with my mother, and she and her friends, they were doing social type of dancing. They were doing their style of Lindy Hop at the time, and everything that I saw them do, I would try to copy. And I went to a dance when I was quite young with my mother, and it was a ballroom dance. sitting upstairs in the box, and everybody down on the floor. They were a little older than I was. I was about the youngest thing there at the time. And I was up in the box. So my mother came upstairs and she got me and brought me downstairs to dance. So I'm dancing up there. I mean, the way I felt, like, I thought I was getting off, you know. I was just singing, doing whatever I felt like doing. So when the dance was over, my mother took me aside and she was shaking her head. She said, "You will never be a dancer because you're too stiff." That's what she said to me. And from then on, I resolved in my mind that I was going to be a dancer. And that I was going to loosen up. Instead of being stiff, I was going to loosen up, you know. So I went out, bought records, went back to my room. I played the records. I grabbed me a chair, and I'm dancing around with the chair. A broom, anything. You know, I had a partner anyway. And so that was practically how I started. Every time my mother would take me to a party, I would just sit down and watch them dance, you know, and I'd see whatever they do, and I'd try to remember it. Then I'd go home and I'd take my chair or my broom and I would dance, you know, the same thing that I had seen them doing. Now, later on, a friend of mine, a fellow, he and I used to go to church in the afternoon. At least our parents sent us to church, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So we would go to church. But on my way to church, there was a ballroom that was called the Alhambra Ballroom. And we had to pass this Alhambra Ballroom. And they would have, youngsters could go to the ballroom from 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And you would have the opportunity to listen to bands like Fletcher Henderson, Lucky Millender, Duke Ellington, Claude Hopkins, or Cab Calloway, any of those bands. The band would start playing, and they would play for the youngsters at that time at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. At 5 o'clock, they put you out. Then the adults would come in, and that same band would play for them. So we had the opportunity as youngsters to listen to those, you know, those big bands, and to dance to them. So what we used to do, we on our way to church, and we get to the entrance of the ballroom, and we would stop, and we look at the entrance of the ballroom, and we look down the road, which one should we go to? The devil say, you better go upstairs. So finally one Sunday, my friend and I, we decided to go upstairs. So we went upstairs to this ballroom, and at that time, we only had to pay 25 cents to go into the ballroom. So we went on upstairs, and we stood around. We watched youngsters. Like my friend and I thought we could dance, but when we got up there, and we watched those youngsters about our age, and they were really swinging, you know. And we just stood there on the side and watched them. My friend was afraid to ask a young lady. I was scared to ask a young lady. So we just stood and watched. I think we went to this ballroom for about 2 months before we got nerve enough to ask a young lady to dance with us. When I finally, well, at that time I was just doing swing. I didn't know any other kind of dances at all. So when I finally got up nerve enough to ask a young lady to dance, would you know it? The band played a waltz. And here I'm on the floor with this young lady, and she was fine, Jim, I'm telling you, she was fine. And I really wanted to try to show her what I could do. And they started playing the waltz. Now, I don't know how to waltz. So, because she's standing there ready, you know, because she can, she's standing there ready. And I don't know what I was saying, but I sure wanted to get off that floor. But anyway, a couple danced by me doing the waltz, right? So I put my arms around this young lady the same way this other couple was, and I followed them around the floor. off the floor. Not off the floor, out of the ballroom. I said, hey, wait a minute, man, there's more than one kind of dancing. You know? So it so happened that there was a young lady that lived in the same building with us, and so my friend and I, we became friendly with this young lady, you know. So we would practice down in our basement, the three of us. Then the three of us would go to the ballroom. Now I didn't have to worry about who to dance with. So I would dance with her one dance, my friend would dance with her one dance, and I would dance with her back and forth. I mean, she danced all night long, at least from 3 to 5, but just with us two. So eventually, we learned a lot of different steps, like from the other group of kids around who were, I mean, as I said, they were really dancing, you know. But we learned a lot of stuff, and everything that we learned, we would always go back home and practice, you know, just the three of us. We would just practice, and we would come back to the ballroom, and we'd do the same thing that we had seen them doing. So eventually, you know, like the girls see you dance pretty good, you know, so you know that you go over and ask the girl, she say, oh yeah, I see him dance, he can dance pretty good, you know. So she would say yes. So that was really my beginning at that time. Now, there were...
Excuse me, what happened about the church?
Well, I'll tell you, the church is still there. But unfortunately, the ballroom is not. So the church outlasted the ballroom. But I'm still here. So there were 3 major ballrooms in Howard. I say major because these 3 ballrooms, they would play, the big bands would play at these 3 ballrooms. There was the Alhambra Ballroom, the Renaissance Ballroom, and the Savoy Ballroom. There were many more. There was almost some place to go and dance on almost any corner in Holland, to tell you the truth. But these were the 3 major ballrooms in Howard: the Alhambra Ballroom, the Renaissance Ballroom, and the Savoy Ballroom. 1938, and there's 3 sets of dancers there that are shown in the center, and they were the 3 of us, the 3 teams, were playing at the Cotton Club at that particular time when this was made. So this was a film from 1938.
And also, Frankie, the fact that you remember 1938, is it because that's the only year you had hair?
I think so. I was going to the Savoy Ballroom about, I'd say about 6 months. And Whitey, Herbert White, who was in charge of the Lindy Hoppers at the time, we called him Whitey because he had a white streak in his hair. His name was Herbert White, but he had a white streak in his hair, so we called him Whitey. And he used to walk around the ballroom, you know, and watch different dances. And, you know, he'd see how good you are, or if you were the potential for dancing. So when he came by, he used to stand and watch us dance, always, you know, my group, you know, not my group, but my friends and I dancing, you know, as a group. And he came over to me, I say about 6 months after I went to Savoy. He came over to me and asked me if I wanted to join Whitey's Lindy Hoppers. So everybody knew Whitey's Lindy Hoppers because they were considered, at that particular time, they were considered the best dancers in Lindy Hop around. And to be asked to join the group was like an honor, you know. So he came over to me and asked me if I would like to join the group. So I said, oh, what am I going to say, no? I said, yeah, of course, man. So he said, well, okay, so come on down to the other end. And, you know, he's going to take me over there and introduce me to, you know, to the other fellows in the group, you know. So I said to him, what about my friends, you know, can they come and join too? So he said, well, no, not right now. I just would like to have you, you know. And being stupid like I am, I said, well, if my friends can't come, I don't think I want to go over there, you know. So he said, well, okay. And he turned and walked away, you know. So my friends walked over, they come over to me and ask me, say, what do you say? What do you say, man? What do you say? I said, well, he asked me to join the group. And they said, man, that's great. You know, they were happy for me, you know. So I said, but I'm not going to join. They said, why? Are you stupid or something? That's why the Lindy Hoppers, man. What do you mean you're not going to join? I said, well, he didn't want you all, so why should I join? And they all got down on me. They said, boy, you are dumb, you are stupid. They called me everything. They say, if that was me, I would have went on to join. But anyway, yes.
It's a small question. How old are you in your story now?
How old am I at that particular time?
Yeah.
17. I was about 17 at that time. So anyway, maybe about 3 or 4 weeks later, Whitey came back over to the corner where we were dancing, and he said, okay, you can bring your whole group over. So we joined Whitey's Lindy Hoppers as a group. It was it was 6 of us, 3 girls and 3 fellas. So we all joined Whitey's Lindy Hoppers as a group. Whitey's Lindy Hoppers, they were not doing ensembles. What we call ensemble is when you see like 3 teams together, you know, like you see the rhythm hop shots when the 3 of them get up and everybody's doing the same thing at the same time. They were not doing that type of dancing. They were not doing aerials. This is when I joined. They were doing a lot of footwork and a lot of steps, what we call floor steps. They were doing all that type of dancing. They started having contests every Saturday night at the Savoy Ballroom. And you would anybody could enter the contest. Generally, Whitey's Lindy Hoppers somebody in Whitey's Lindy Hoppers always won the contest because, as I said, they were good. And these contests were judged by the audience. The manager of the ballroom, the manager of the ballroom, when the contest is over, he would, you know, like stand in the back of one couple and he'd raise his hand over there and the crowd would applaud and so on down the line. The one that got the most applause was the winner of the contest. So, as I said, I had joined Whitey's Lindy Hopper, so I had an opportunity to dance in these contests like every Saturday night. So during this particular contest, you danced like this Saturday night and you won that contest this Saturday night. You have to change your routine or change your steps for next Saturday night because somebody done copied every step you did that first Saturday night. So if you think you're gonna try to win next Saturday night with those same steps, no way. Some 3 or 4 different couples gonna be doing the same thing you just finished doing. So that was like competitive, and it forced you to make up a step, to make up different steps. So at that time, this was like the development of Lindy Hop, and you know, whenever you're developing something, you build. So this is what happened. Because of these contests, and it was so competitive, I mean, everybody was trying to beat everybody else in the dancing. So you had to what can I do? You know, what can I do that they're not going to do next Saturday night? So, in that way, that is how Lindy Hop progressed. Shorty Snowden used to do a step with Big B. Oh, I should say Big B did a step with Shorty Snowden. She would pick Shorty Snowden up on her back. This was her last step. She'd pick him up on her back and she would walk off the stage with her, you know, which was funny in itself. So I got the idea from my partner, not for her to pick me up, but if I put my partner on my back and I bring her all the way over and she lands on the music while I'm dancing, then maybe that should be a pretty good step. But this is where I'm thinking. Now, at that particular time, I'm not thinking that I'm revolutionizing Lindy Hop. It's just that I'm looking for something, you know, exciting, that's all. So, my partner, being my partner, she said, well, okay, let's try it. So, every day after school, we're in my apartment, and we're doing this step, trying to do this step. I'm falling, she's falling. And, well, we went through the whole rigmarole of creating a new step, of doing this new step, till we figured we had the step down perfect, good enough to dance to and do it in this contest. Now, I hadn't told Whitey or anybody, you know, about this step. We've been doing this in secret because we don't want nobody else to do it, but, you know, get the step and do it before we do it, you know. So, now it comes time for the contest. Fortunately, I happened to be the last one to dance. You know, like Shorty Snowden, one of Shorty Snowden's group would dance, and one of Whitey's couple would dance, and Shorty Snowden and Whitey's couple, and then Shorty Snowden, and then it was me. And, you know, like, them guys, they have really made the floor hot. I mean, and I'm the last one to dance. I'm you know, at the time, I'm going to tell you the truth, at the time, I really didn't want to go out.